Welcome to the Motormouth YouTube channel. We are doing questions, coffee, and cars from Japan.
Konnichiwa. So Andrea, how do you play along if you want to get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at Motormouth_Andrea. I put a post out every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific time. You get your questions in. The post is deleted, and then we start the show.
Okay, so we have a couple of special guests. We put a post out specially for our trip here to Japan.
Yep.
So we have Stephen Beatty to Andrea's right. He's the Vice President of Toyota Canada. And to his right, Andrea, is?
We've got Scott MacKenzie, Director of External Affairs for Toyota.
Okay, Scott has a neat job because he wears kind of two hats. So in Canada, we have Toyota Canada, of course, but we also have a major manufacturing facility, or several, in Canada. And Scott also works on the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
So we have some questions about Toyota and manufacturing. So do you want to get into the first question, or you want to talk about the show a little bit?
Well, we're at the show, and Toyota unveiled some concepts which were really interesting. One that caught my eye was a new pickup truck. I know you guys have been talking about the Stout a lot, and is there going to be a hybrid from Toyota? Well, they have released a concept here at the show, and it is a small pickup truck that is fully electric, also a sports car.
All right, let's just ask Stephen quickly.
Sure.
So when we went to the booth this morning, the first thing you said is, oh, go check out the electric pickup truck. Is that a hint to me that this might be coming to Canada, North America?
Look, I think pickup trucks have been core to the Toyota lineup throughout our entire history. A small pickup truck has been, I think, the backbone of Toyota all around the world.
Yeah.
And as you're busy moving into this new electrified space, you got to have a pickup truck too. So, yeah, this is a concept, but it's a space that I think holds a lot of promise.
Now, Scott, you know that Ford Motor Company has had a huge success with Maverick as a hybrid.
Yeah.
Is Toyota just going to leapfrog past that and go pure EV for a small truck like that? Or do you think there's still room for both?
I think there's still room for both, and we've started to electrify all of our vehicles across North America and in Canada, and we've offered hybrid versions on our pickup trucks today, and I think we'll have that going forward. But obviously the industry and the market are heading towards higher levels of electrification. I think you'll see different technologies applied for pickup trucks.
A couple others that caught our eye: a new sports car. Of course, it's a concept, but it's a pure EV, and also a pure EV Land Cruiser and a crossover.
Yeah, now we're also visiting the Lexus booth as well, and of all the vehicles that you showed at Toyota and Lexus, there was only one that was actually officially confirmed that's coming. What is that, Stephen?
Well, it's our new Sedan, which was confirmed for 2026. And the nice thing about this is that it begins to give you a real sense of where the design direction and the sort of flexibility that comes with new technology is taking us. So the packaging's very different. The overall design of the vehicle is very modern and fresh. But inside, it's also starting to show off the benefits of a new electrical platform and software design that will help to essentially create a driving companion for you.
So it's all about connectivity.
It's about more than connectivity. Of course, it's about how the car connects with the outside world. It's about how you connect with the car and how it supports you in your driving.
So that's coming what year?
2026.
So that's
Okay.
exciting stuff coming from Toyota and Lexus. Let's get into your questions from Instagram. First question: is Toyota considering making a Toyota Camry Touring Sports a wagon?
Yeah, because you had a Venza, which was close to a wagon.
Yeah.
And it went away. Any wagons in our future?
If I can just interrupt, I just want to say we get asked this question so much because the Subaru Outback is actually quite popular, but we all know that demand for crossovers and SUVs has really increased, which is why I hear the wagon is gone.
So what do you say?
Well, I say that there's a great circle of time, and what goes out of fashion eventually comes back into fashion, but usually in a different form. So, is there a Camry wagon in our future? There's certainly nothing in the plans for that at the moment. But I do think that some of the new designs that are coming will give you shapes and utility factors that will give you many of the same features the traditional station wagons did.
Great. This one is an interesting one about quality.
Well, Scott's the perfect guy for this.
Yes. Is the Land Cruiser still built at a different quality level than other Toyota vehicles? Regularly, we see them on the used market with hundreds of thousands of miles, and I've heard they're engineered to last longer.
It's not entirely true. So I think the Land Cruiser has earned a phenomenal reputation for quality, durability, and reliability. But the fact of the matter is we don't build vehicles to different levels of quality. We have one standard, and in the case of Land Cruiser, maybe the plant that's making that in Japan has been very successful over the years, but we don't target different levels of quality for individual cars within our lineup. We always target the same level of quality.
We've heard, people pointing out that this vehicle is made at X factory in Japan and it has higher quality. By the way, we are on the floor of the show, so please excuse the noise.
There's an unveiling, so you might be hearing some music right now. Hopefully our audio will be okay.
So, and then there's, obviously you make a lot of the vehicles that the mainline cars that people buy close to home in North America. Is there a difference you're at the manufacturing facility between Canada, United States, and Japan?
Our plants in Japan have also earned a phenomenal record for quality, and the products that they make are outstanding, but we also make outstanding products in North America. And how is quality measured? And one way it could be through an independent organization that's auditing vehicles, as an example. So it's not just within Toyota. And J.D. Power, as an example, they have an initial quality survey specifically focused on manufacturing. They survey consumers, and the consumers aren't necessarily answering whether a car is better in Japan or North America. They're answering based on the car that they drive. And the results of that are pretty consistent. And in North America, for instance, the plant that I represent, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, we're the second most awarded plant in the world. That's not just Toyota plant, that's of all plants globally. And our sister plant in Kyushu in Japan, they're actually the number one in the world, but we think it's a healthy competition. And all of the products that we make in North America, like I said, are built to the same standard globally, and we're very good at what we do.
So I just want to reiterate what's actually made in the Canadian facility. These are mainline cars. So you've got RAV4, RAV4 hybrid. You don't get more mainstream than that. You've got Lexus RX, RX hybrid, and NX and NX hybrid, right? Those are the main ones?
That's correct.
And there's some wiggle room to maybe add. Could we see a PHEV facility going into Canada at all in those vehicles?
You could. There's supply chains behind that, whether it's battery manufacturing or the components that are going into the RAV4 hybrid, or Prime in that case, that we'll need to resolve in order for that to happen. But it's certainly possible, and it's something that we would love to do.
If I can just step on this for a second, the thing that Scott didn't mention is that they supply about half of the vehicles we sell in Canada. So that very high level of quality control coming out of that plant is exceptionally important to our Canadian customers.
And we're pretty blessed in Canada that we make the RAV4, which is the number one selling vehicle within Toyota globally and certainly within North America. And we also make the RX and the NX on the Lexus side. And in Canada, RX and NX are about 65% of all Lexus sold. So we have a significant impact on the quality reputation for both Toyota and Lexus in the Canadian marketplace.
Okay, speaking of J.D. Power and reliability surveys, so reliability surveys used to tell you if your car would break down. Now cars get bad scores if your phone didn't connect every time. Do you think there should be a separate mechanical survey and other surveys targeting different issues?
Well, when it comes to those sorts of consumer surveys, it's important for us to get all of the data, because that's what helps us refine the designs and the overall consumer interface that we're working with. I don't think it's unfair for cars to be judged by both the electronics and the mechanicals, because you're buying a single experience with that vehicle, and it's the sort of thing that keeps pushing us to bring new operating systems into the marketplace. And even here at the Japan Mobility Show, we're busy talking about Arena, a new electronic interface for the vehicle that I think is going to change the way that people really connect with their vehicle and the sort of driver support that happens inside. But it's got to be intuitive. We need to keep hearing back from consumers about each one of those changes that we make, and that happens because we get honest reaction back in those surveys.
So one thing I wanted to ask about the survey is we on the consumer side get a score above industry average, below industry average, and the cars and the brands are ranked. But you get way more information from a company like J.D. Power, which is one thing I always say is that all brands contribute to these surveys because you get so much information that they do independently, right?
So most brands contribute to these surveys. There's some that who are holdouts.
Yes, maybe starts with T, but not Toyota.
I won't comment on that.
All right, let's move to the next question.
Fair. Can't wait for this edition. As a longtime Toyota owner and a fan, although less so recently, will we continue to see specialty V8 models from time to time, or is the V8 officially done once the current models get discontinued? I have a V8 GX 460, and my dream would be for them to do what Porsche did with the new Cayenne and going out with a big bang turbo or PHEV V8 in something. That's a good one.
Yeah, I would say watch for us to come in with a big bang with all sorts of new powertrain choices that I think you're going to find really interesting. And it's easy for all of us who've grown up in through the history of the recent development of the auto industry. It's great for us to talk about the feel of big block engines, of traditional gearing, of all sorts of
analog, right? Analog feel.
Analog technologies, exactly. The wonderful thing about where we can go in the future is that having sorted out some of the platform issues, this electrification allows us to actually dial up handling characteristics, performance characteristics that can dial in exactly the sort of experience that your viewer is looking for. We can do it electrically.
I read an article or a press release about Lexus working on a sort of synthetic manual shift transmission. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that's one. But the other point is that we're already working with our direct forward technology so that you can shift power delivery from the front to the rear on demand. So we can actually create the driving feel of any one of our vehicles in these new platforms.
So if you want a rear-wheel drive sports car feel, you can dial that in.
Right, and you can do it on demand for those sorts of occasions when you want that extra kick in the pants. But then revert to more normal driving for the sort of day-to-day commute.
Is that what you're talking about, the customization with the driver in the car, with the new interface, those sorts of things?
That's part of it. The other part of it is setting up the controls specific to your preferences or to the setting that you're in. It's about finding essentially a co-pilot as an artificial intelligence in the car that's supporting you in your driving.
Yeah, but is the V8 going away? Are you going to be able to get a Lexus IS with a V8?
V8s, of course, are going away.
Yeah. V6s are going away.
Yeah,
look,
that's fair.
Look, all internal combustion engines over time are going away if the drift of environmental regulation in North America stays focused on a single pathway, which is battery electric.
I mean, what I have to say, and I say this to Zach often, is that we applaud Toyota and Lexus for moving forward with electrification and coming out with hybrids, plug-in hybrids, a terrific hybrid max powertrain, which is different than what we see a lot of other manufacturers doing right now.
But let me come back to this. There is hope for internal combustion engines, and that's with Efuels. So, we're doing a lot of work on racing circuits and elsewhere, either with direct combustion of hydrogen or with e-fuels. And e-fuels, in a nutshell, are basically a composed fuel using hydrogen and carbon in order to create synthetic fuel, which is zero carbon or net zero carbon.
Yeah, well, Porsche's working on that too to try to keep their sports cars going.
They absolutely are. So if we can do that, and if the regulations will support it, then there's an opportunity to keep internal combustion alive. But these are issues for the future.
Will those Tacoma Pro seats with suspension make it into SUVs such as the 4Runner? Imagine those suspension seats in a Highlander. I love those suspension seats.
Hey, imagine them in a Corolla.
You can do anything if you.
I
If you
think
really
it's
want
great,
to.
right. But we haven't announced anything in that space yet.
Okay, this is our last question of this show. What is the level of concern from Toyota when it comes to customers waiting months, years for their vehicle they've ordered to arrive at the dealership? I would say that is one of the biggest complaints that we get from viewers, is that they want to buy a Toyota or a Lexus and it's not available and they need a car now.
Okay, I just want to ask Scott. Scott, at the factory where you make the RAV4 hybrid, everybody wants one of those. They want RX hybrid. Can you make more, or are you flat out?
We will, in Canada, our plants will make 530,000 vehicles this year, and our straight time capacity is less than that. So we're running as close to full out as we can in order to meet the consumer demand in North America, and that's Canada and the United States. So we're running full out, trying to satisfy every customer in North America.
And what percentage of hybrids are you selling compared to the gas models? Let's just choose the RAV4, for example.
Well, I mean, across our lineup, we're now selling about 40% of our total sales in Canada as hybrid or above, and you're going to see that happen across the lineup. But the traditional internal combustion is going away in favor of hybrid as our starting technology. So it's just going to keep growing year after year after year, and their capacity is going to continue to expand in the hybrid space and potentially beyond. But what's happening? Well, to give you a good example of that, because plants are working the way that they are, at this point in the month, I just saw our latest sales numbers. We're up 22% in sales this month, year over year.
So that means you've delivered more cars.
We've delivered a lot more cars, so we're chipping away at it. But as Scott said, customers are coming through the door.
Would a continued economic slowdown help with the equilibrium?
I have a hard time saying that a slowdown is going to help anybody.
No, but
obviously,
for customers waiting for their car.
Obviously, if demand slows down, then.
But you're not seeing that yet?
We're not seeing that yet, and will it happen? Could it happen? Of course, but I would also say that what you've seen from Toyota and Lexus over the last several years has been an incredible launch of new, more interesting products across the lineup, and it's been renewing the customer interest and bringing people in.
One last point on that is people are saying, oh, that's great, you brought out a new sports car, you've done this, like a more niche vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just make more of what people buy? Because I'm waiting a year for my RAV4 hybrid.
Right, but bringing out that sports car doesn't take away from the volume plants like TMMC. What it's doing is adding to our lineup.
Yeah.
And
so you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
we are able to do both of those things. We'll see if we can keep that up.
Now there are more Turbo 4 engines available and less V6s, right? We're seeing that, we're changing that. My question is that strictly related to emissions and the overall emissions in the fleet? I was asked, why can the Palisade still come with a V6, but now the Highlander has a turbocharged 4-cylinder?
Yeah, so we have to get our terminology perfect here because there's emissions and fuel economy.
Emissions is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately in Canada they're the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And
Are they?
the reason they're the same thing is it's based on GHG. So if we can drive efficiency, then that allows you to continue to expand the fleet, expand your sales on an average fleet basis. So, yes, you're going to see us move toward smaller, more efficient engines, but combined with turbocharging, combined with hybridization, and frankly, if you've driven the new vehicles, you find that the power delivery is really good from these new power plants. So, we all sort of wax nostalgic about
the good old
days.
Yeah.
I do that more than most people do, but the reality is it just keeps getting better.
All right, before we go, we're going to wrap this up quick. Before
Yeah.
Andrea, how do you get a question in for the show?
Follow along on Instagram at Motormouth_Andrea. I put a post out every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Get your questions in quickly, because once we gather them, the post is deleted and we start the show. Just want to say thank you
I just
so
want to. I have one last question.
Oh,
okay.
That's not
No,
like
no,
Zach.
no.
Usually he's the timekeeper.
No. I got a question. All right, Scott, what are you driving right now? What's your car?
I'm driving Lexus RX 500H.
The high performance one.
Yeah.
Stephen, what are you driving?
Actually, a Lexus RX 350H.
Okay.
Nice. What's the fuel economy like that you're getting? No, we won't go into that. Well, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for another Questions, Coffee, and Cars
From Japan.
coming from Japan. Thank you.